It's a great day in SimWorld, everybody. Good morning and welcome to SimWorld Today. I'm B-Ron, and alongside me, as always, is my co-host Yells on this wonderful Wednesday. How you doing, man? Good morning, good morning.
I'm good, man. And you say always. It may not be always. You never know. So we may have some guests pop through. We may have a
You
few
know, you
things
know,
go on. So
we know, but for right now, as always, you are my co-host.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean, man. You know what I mean.
for sure.
Look, let's jump right into maybe a little bit of drama. Perhaps we know everybody loves drama around here. Draymond Green, is one of the more polarizing players, in the SimWorld Basketball Association as a WBA, and for obvious reasons, some would say. But the question is, how much of what does on the court in terms of he gets into that. How much that is too much? Where is a line? Is there a line? Has he crossed the line? All that kind of stuff. And does all of that really lessen lessen what he does on the court when he's not doing those kinds of things? You know what I mean?
It's a lot, man. You see
Yeah,
here in
yeah,
this.
no, it is. It is.
It's a lot. You see here in this package, and the legs are always flying. The man is a kick machine. No one, no one is a better kicker. He should have played football. But no, it's ridiculous, man. I'm a Draymond Green fan. I'll say that. I am a Draymond Green fan. I love the intensity that he brings to a game. I love that he's an enforcer. I love what he does for his team as far as
Yeah.
you know, giving them that edge that they certainly would not have without Draymond Green. So for me personally, I like him as a player. All the crazy
What?
antics, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people stand the same way, but we're talking about what the line is, right? The crazy antics, like they're so inflammatory. That's the thing about them too. They're
Yeah.
so inflammatory. If you were to if you were to get into a scuffle with someone, or if you were to have something to say to a referee or other players, so be it. But
Yeah.
at the point where it's demonstrative, I mean, B-Run, I'm at a loss for words with it because what I
I
see
got you.
him do on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
like, it is so absurd to me. Like, it's too much, and that's what I'm getting at. It's ultimately way too much. It's way too frequent. It's too much, and that's kind of how you quantify things. Does somebody do something too much? Okay, that's one problem. Okay, is it over the line and exasperated how insane or how magnified the item is? He
Yeah.
checks both boxes. It's so often, and it is so insane. I'm no Jordan Poole fan, but you can't knock your teammate out, or you can't
Right.
go at him
Yeah.
like he did back in the day.
Yeah.
Maybe in that case it was warranted, and I say I'm okay. But 2 weeks from then, you kick somebody in the private. Like, give it a rest. Fall back for a minute. And the thing is, he never falls back. He stands on what it is he does. And I know people stand up for that now. They're like, oh, stand on which. Not if it's dumb. Not if it's dumb. And at this point, he's made
Yeah.
himself unavailable for his team. His team does not. They're not the same without him. So when it's costing you your availability with the team,
Mm-hmm.
when it's leaning the referees away from you, which effectively is impacting your team, it's affecting other people, and that's what I always stand by. If you want to be a jerk, if you want to be a jackass, if you want to be the toughest guy, whatever it is you choose to be in life, not even on a basketball court, whatever
Right.
you choose to be, you have the right to do whatever it is you want to do. Play a game the way you want to play it, live your life the way you want to live it. But when what you do affects someone else, you need to assess. And playing in team sports, what you do affects other people. Take it a
Agree,
step further,
100%.
when you're on the court and in practice, that's when you're really affecting people, and that's where we see the most outrageous stuff. On his
Yeah,
podcast, he's chill. When he's out partying with LeBron, we don't see anything about him getting into it with a bartender or the big ass guy up front. But on the court, for some reason, his
all right.
legs, crazy legs. His legs are all over the place. He's pushing people in the
Yeah,
back. He's getting into it with his teammates. It and I've seen some conversations this morning where he's not at that point. For me, he's at that point. He's at that point. I can't. It's unbearable.
I got you. I got you. I hear where you're coming from, and I understand that for sure. I do. I do. Uh, I also do think that it is a little too much. Uh, Draymond should have played hockey. I feel like that's the kind of mentality he has when he's on the court. He's that enforcer player, who's gonna get in your face and protect his teammates. And so sometimes things go too far in that realm. Obviously, with the we can look at the Rudy Gobert incident recently.
Ridiculous.
That was absolutely ridiculous. But apparently it was all over a misunderstanding on the court or whatever. I don't know. That was one of the things that I heard.
So, look, man,
I'll
I'm
do that.
sorry.
I'll
I'm
do that
sorry.
as I don't know.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, just to say,
You,
just
you,
to make this
you good.
point. Like even having to have that conversation or having to decipher, always
Mhm.
having to decipher if something else went on. Like that conversation shouldn't even have to be had that frequently. And that's my point. Like
Yeah.
the excuses that we make, or maybe it was like, hey man, if I push my kid down the stairs or something, here I know what my crazy analogies all the time. Do we need to figure out if that was warranted or not? Like that's insane, and it's repetitive with
Yeah.
this guy.
I got you. I got you. I understand. Look, again, I do think that at some point that line uh needs to once it gets crossed, it's very difficult to go back and do it again. You can't. You can in most cases, but I just Draymond. Yeah, I'm with you, y'all. I was lost for words this morning, and it's very hard for me to do, but here we are. It's tough, and I hope that he can sort of get himself on track. Maybe he needs some outside help to kind of work on those things and handle something better. Like I don't know, man.
We see
I
a
wish he
lot
was
of the
back.
celebrity fighters doing all this celebrity boxing. That's what I want to
Yeah,
see Draymond do at this point. I don't want to see you on the court. I want to see if you can knock somebody out when they're like. I want to see him fight. That's all I want to see him do now. I don't want to see him play basketball. That's cool, but I don't want to see him fighting on a basketball court where we know basketball
yeah.
players can't fight.
Fair,
Just
fair
saying.
enough.
Out-
Hey,
Outside of
I'm
Chris
not gonna
Childs, Chris Childs has a mean two-piece combo, and I'm not talking chicken. Yeah.
Oh man, well let's talk about coaches, man. Let's talk about some coaches. We are a few days away from the season. We've seen a lot of coaches come in and talk a big game. We've seen coaches in the past talk a big game. We've seen coaches not talk a big game. There's very different personalities on both sides of the fence here, and being that all these kids are 15 to 17 years old, they're at that stage where they're really starting to come into their own and start to look up to people and hold them in higher regards than they did than when they were, say, 7, 8 years old. Um, having those kind of personalities around you, be they positive or negative, and the impact that those kinds of things can have. Let's talk about that for a minute, and how the coaches play a part in that. Example that I have here is Coach Dodge for me. I believe we have a graphic of her here in one of her many iconic um, things that we've seen from her. She is one of those coaches where you are going to get a sense of professionalism, care, very almost motherly aspect to how she treats her players and cares about her kids and all that on the team. And that's something for me that if I were to play, I want to play for a coach like that, because she's gonna look out for you both on and off the court in terms of how she goes about handling any issues that arise and things like that. We haven't heard anything about her teams and personality issues off the court. like we have with other teams. I feel like I'm rambling here, but what are your thoughts on all that?
Um,
Examples, you have like
I definitely think coach's personality plays a factor in how their team operates, especially with these kids at such a young age. But it's not the tell all be all because a lot of these kids they have
yeah,
huge
agreed,
personalities on their
agreed.
own. There's nothing you're gonna do to tell. We've heard it. You can't tell me nothing. Like, you
Yeah,
can't tell me I'm the number two, number one, number 13. Some instances I'm the number 72 player in the country. What are you gonna tell me? So,
yeah,
but I think it makes a lot in molding these young men. I think I've said before on one of these shows, if not here today or on SimWorld today, excuse me, that I think the mandatory 1 to 2 years in college should be brought back. I, that's general. That's how I feel. I think there needs to be mentorship. There's a lot of kids out here that are skilled, and you know why? I would say I've never drawn a map to this, but when you look at basketball players, sports athletes, and just kids in
yeah,
general, I think it's a cross. If you were to draw, and I think I talked to my man Rick Blaze about this. If you were to draw a like a scale of time versus success, you would see in skill. I think you would see that the skill back in the day in any particular thing, sports, basketball, anything else, may have been right
yeah,
here, right. Make sure I'm on camera. And the trajectory over time, the skill has gone up. So we see better basketball players, people
right,
better in technology, people better at all these things. But what has gone down is the ability to police yourself and the ability to have a standard of what's reasonable. So
yeah,
as the skill has went up, the ability to maintain and do something with that skill has gone down. And I think that's where mentorship comes into play. I think where these coaches are saying, "Hey, somewhere someone's told you this is acceptable, but I'm here to say, in the realm of what you're saying you want to make it to this level in this thing, that's not acceptable. It's not.
right,
It's not
exactly.
cool. Here's what our team standard is. Here's what your standard. Here's what my standard is for you as a young man, because we're grooming young men here in sports, and that's what sports already started with.
Right.
I think the coach's personality plays a great role. Now you have some other coaches who are kind of more boisterous out there, where they're like, "Hey man, get out there, talk your talk, do what you need to do." But behind the scenes, maybe they kind of they encourage them, they tap them on the back and like, "Yo, that's too much. That's too much. Let's reel it back in." But there's other times where
Right.
they're like, "Hey, I want to stick the dogs on them. Go do your thing."
Yeah.
So I think the coach personality plays a huge role. More importantly, I think that it should play an important role.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Agreed there. Having the mentorship aspect, especially at the high school and college age, is big for your growth as a professional. We hear all the time about players, who say, my high school, my college coach really pushed me and made me a better person and that kind of stuff. And that's what, like you said, that's what sports are all about in general. So, those kind of stories will never get tired of hearing about because that's what makes the realm of sports so great. One of the reasons, anyway, that makes sports so great is hearing those kinds of stories about players and coaches coming together and changing each other's lives for the better. In that case, for sure, for sure.
For certain. And again, I want to shout out some of the coaches that I know do a great job with that. Like you already said, Coach Dodge, wonderful job with mentoring young men. Coach Kusa out there at SimWorld Atlantis,
Yeah,
has a very high standard for his kids out there, and at some point, that's gonna turn his program into a high level program. At some point, that may take some time, but he's building character. Character takes time. We're living in a world of instant gratification. That's why you see someone like a Jordan Poole. Yo, this guy balls out. He can hoop, but then when he goes somewhere where there's not a standard, he looks like a clown. Like he looks like what he's always been. There's nothing new that he's doing. This is what he's been. This bleeds back into what our original conversation was. Steve Kerr
yeah,
set a culture in Golden State, but he's also said, Draymond, you're allowed to go do this because it's what's needed from you. And he's kind of created a monster. No one can tell Draymond anything at this point, and he's become a menace not only to other people but to himself.
Draymond the Menace.
No.
work on that TV executive. I don't know. But look, let's keep it moving, shall we? Let's be fortune tellers, predict the future for a little bit.
All right.
Um, I don't know, whatever. Top teams. Yeah, yeah. Top teams in
Ooh, when
the
the
world
macho
rivalry
man
next
starts to
season.
predict, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was something that went up in Hard in the Paint this morning talking about how Bay Area is gonna be not be a top team next season, that kind of thing. I disagree with that one. I think they'll be just fine next season. I think they'll be if not in that in if not in that top tier, then in the upper echelon of teams let's say 1 to 10, 1 to 5 range next season. I think they'll still be in that realm. What are some teams that come to mind for you that would be in that top conversation for next season?
To fall off,
No, to rise for next season.
to rise.
Yes.
I think Best Coast. I think Best
Okay.
Coast
Yeah,
brought in
I
a
can see that.
lot of young talent.
I can see that for
I know
sure.
there's
Yeah.
been a lot of talk about DJ Davis and some of the other guys and some of the stuff that's
Yeah.
occurred. But these kids are young; they have time to grow. They're going to grow into their bodies, and they're skilled. You got DJ Davis. You got Ali. I'm a huge Ali Cortez fan. Heaven Johnson. There's been some recent talk about this guy's skill set. Tyler Hunt. And DeAndre, oh, that's awfully close. DeAndre Green, and Arlo Cook. I think Arlo Cook has some big things in store, so I'm a big fan of them. Another controversial team, but I think they have the players to really do something. I think that's excuse me. I think that's Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast
They were on
lockdown.
my list too. Yep, they were on mine. They
Lot
were
of
on mine as well.
skill,
Yeah. Yeah,
a
I agree.
lot of
Absolutely.
young kids on that squad, and then lastly, I always try and bring some international flair into it. SimWorld Europe. SimWorld Europe's got some places to go. You got Zodorn there, you got Ty Merka, and then you got Suslav and Big Andrew Ivanov. Him alone, I think that's going to give them a good future, and then they'll be bringing in some more younger kids.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to them being a thorn in people's side for a couple of seasons here.
Yeah, yeah, those were 2 that were on mine. Another one that I have, I think that got as much as it paid me to say being a Baltimore fan, Gotham 5, the New York team up there. I think they'll be in a better spot next season too. Carter Cash will hopefully return. I mean, we don't know a lot of things obviously, but the 16-year-olds Carter Cash, Kel McKnight, Kimani Woodbury, those 3 kids right there. I feel like those will be key pieces for them next season. And I think that they definitely could see a uptick in their success next season, provided they continue to just build. And I think they have Coach Mula there is going to be a great coach for them to
Shout out,
to
Young Moolah, baby. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
they'll be. I think they'll be better than they were next season, or better next season than they will be this season.
yeah.
I don't know how good it'll be this season, but I think they'll be better next season.
Put it on wax, B. Ron. What's the record gonna be this season? Then
This season,
that
oh
means that
man,
means you have an estimation for what they're gonna do this season. What is it?
what we got? 32 games here.
31 games, not
31
counting the race
games.
to one.
If we do math this morning, we're doing math. uh, I'm gonna give them 14 wins.
14 wins.
Yeah, I
That's
think I think that's. I'm not a math person. I have to do math, man. It's too early in the day for all of that.
so below 500. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But let's keep it moving. Before we get out of here, man, a lot of talk over the last few days about the DJ Davis situation. Yesterday, he came out, had some comments. I had a chance to speak to him, and he gave me his thoughts and took accountability for his actions, that kind of stuff. Been hearing a lot of things about, we can put it behind us now and all that stuff, and that's not how any of this works. I'm just gonna say that right now. That's not how any of this works. It's still gonna be something. Just because this part's over doesn't necessarily mean that the whole thing is over. So is the saga over? No, far from it. Actually, that's just my personal opinion on that. What are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Hey man, to this morning I like to cite an old Michael Jackson song. Just leave him alone. Just leave him alone. Y'all just leave the guy alone, man. Let's see what he does on the court.
Yeah, of
I
course,
hear
of
you.
course.
I know what you're saying, B. Ron. It's
Yeah,
not over, and we want to make sure. Hey, it's like you sound like an old villain in a movie. I want you to know it's never over. This never
exactly.
ends. I got you. And that's a fact. That's a fact. As long as you're,
Yeah.
hey kids, here's a note for you. If you think this is something, you're going. Hopefully, some of you guys are going to be going on to SimWorld U. The spotlight's bigger. And some of you guys think that you're God's greatest player ever to grace the basketball court. So when you get to SWBA, the spotlight is even bigger. You will get crucified for every movement and deal that you make, praised for everything that you do right, only so that we can tear you down over whatever goes wrong. That's the cycle of how media works. So start dealing with it now. SimWorld Prep's putting you in position to learn how PR works. So just know how it works. LeBron uses
That
his words very carefully. You see he has not yet come out and said, I'm going to go upside Anthony Davis' head. And I think he's, when he's thinking it, but he hasn't said it. So
and said, man. Well, we've said a lot today. It's time for us to get out of here. Thank you all for listening and watching. As always, we appreciate you very, very much. Remember, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. And remember, SimWorld is the only place where you can see the game, be the game. We'll see you tomorrow.
this has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.